आपादमौलिपर्यन्तां गुरूणाम् आकृतिं स्मरितेन विघ्नं प्रणश्यन्ति सिद्धन्ति च मनोरथः लक्ष्मीं तनोतु नितरामितरानपेक्षमङ्घ्रिद्वयं निगमशाखिशिखा प्रवालं भैरम्बमं गुरुहडम्बरचौर्यनिग्रं विघ्नातिभीर्षतधुरन्तरान्नः सर्वेषां स्वागतम्. This is the Saṃskāra session for the seventh shloka. That is when Rama starts speaking, that is giving his response. So the one samskara that is very prevalent, ancient wisdom that has been passed down is the Varna and Ashrama Dharma. What is this Varna and Ashrama Dharma? Most would know or have learned about this, about Sanatana Dharma. What is that? Our scriptures give us a four-part, four-stepwise accession to spirituality. And that is given not just through the spiritual text, but also through our social participation. So the Varna decides our social participation, Ashrama decides our age-wise participation, and there is also something called as Purusharthas. Purusharthas, Purushartha Chatushtaya, that is also four. They tell us what is the ultimate target, that is what is the accession to the Purushartha, what should be our aims at different stages. And then if we look at the Vedas are also broadly categorized in four parts. So how should we approach the Vedas? That too, we have it in four parts. So these are not random or these are not disconnected. These are very carefully categorized and methodically separated and framed such that a person feels it easy to get into that whole area of spirituality. So Varna here has four Varnas. Four Varnas are Brahmana, Vaishya, Kshatriya, Shudra. Now, while the Vedic system or the study or the education about the Vedic system broadly speaks about caste-based Varna system, it is not so that there is a difference between the Varna system and the castes. Castes are usually what lineage or birth entitles us to, or rather what has been very much prevalent. But this Varna system, from if we look at history or if we look at any information regarding the Varna system, we will know that there are two parts of it. One, when it got initiated, that is when it was put into effect, and this was for a long time. Even in terms of modern acceptance of what history is, this was in the early Vedic period, and that went on for around 3,000-4,000 years. So this was very much prevalent, and this was very much accepted. Maybe it got abused in the past after the early Vedic period for about 2,000 years. But the merit was that this helped categorize the jobs, the society in fairly four different structures, in four different participatory modes. So we could participate in the society through Varna Dharma. Varna Dharma, the Brahmanas or the scholarly people who would approach Jnana. Their whole point of existence and participation in the society would mostly be with respect to practicing the Adhyatma Jnana, and This would also mean that they would not give up. They would not give up any stage of the ashrama dharma or any stage of the karma kandas. They would not give up any of the purusharthas. The path of um, manifesting whatever has been given in the purusharthas. Purusharthas are again four. Purushartha chatushtaya. That is dharma, artha, kama, moksha. So in this dharma, artha, kama, moksha, dharma is the ultimate. That again is a different vyakhya about what dharma is. But dharma is the righteous truth. Kama is what is the desirable truth. Artha is prosperous, being prosperous, or earning a livelihood. Dharma, Artha, Kama, Moksha. Moksha is the ultimate goal where liberation happens. So when we are talking about this, there is no um, disconnect of any varna from any of the purusharthas, regardless of which particular category that we fall into, or in whichever way we decide to participate in the society. All these four have to be taken care of. But the opportunities would probably be different for different categories. That is, a Vaishya has probably the most uh, uh, opportunities to earn a livelihood. So it is mostly suited for Artha. But in the same way, a Kshatriya would be most suited for Kama, to get desires fulfilled. So, therefore, every Varna would require some kind of assistance with regard to a different, with regard to completing or successfully achieving some part of Purushartha. For example, Brahmana would primarily earn a livelihood through receiving alms. Therefore, he had to get some kind of support. And a Shudra would primarily be who would primarily earn through um, providing service for others, which means he would always be under employment, which means he would also require assistance. So there are certain classes which require certain kind of help. Kshatriyas would require understanding of what dharma is. So therefore, they would need teachers. They would need assistance in understanding what dharma is. Then you would have Vaishyas. Vaishyas too would require an understanding of who dharma is, and moksha. Most importantly, moksha, because they are the ones who are primarily involved in earning wealth. It would be difficult for them to liberate if they don't disengage from it. So therefore, this particular four varnas also got certain preference in certain things. Like if we take the Vaishyas, that is mostly the Jains, we will find that they have a whole parampara on disengagement, that is renunciation. They make a big deal out of it, mostly because they are the primary varna who are in the for whom it is easier to achieve the goal of artha. So they make an extra effort when it comes to moksha, that is renunciation, because that is difficult for them. So there is an active engagement of that particular purushartha, because it is a little far from them. When we are actively earning, when we are actively engaging ourselves in the act of earning prosperity, wealth, then disengaging from them must also be active. So therefore, we find that Jain monks also take to moksha, also take to renunciation at a very young age. It is taught to them so that it is balanced out. So there are the varnas, the four varnas, for them, some part of the Purushartha becomes easy, some part of it is difficult, and we need to approach it. So, in the same way, now this Varnashrama, we realize that this is based on Varna, is primarily based on the guna that we have. That is, are we um, uh, am I primarily of that particular, do I have that particular quality to approach jnana? Do I approach it through karma? Do I approach it to something else? So, like this, there are four varnas. A Brahmana is someone who approaches living his life through jnanarjana. Kshatriya is somebody who approaches living his life through kaya vriddhi. And Vaishya is through dhanarjana. And then Shudra is to nishkama karma. So these four varnas are usually given at a very basic level, because the intention of the scriptures is to make it easier for us to ultimately reach that purushartha of moksha. So the Purushartha also starts with Dharma, Artha, Kama, Moksha, which is engaging the ashramas. Ashramas are Brahmacharya, Grihastha, then you have Vanaprastha and then Sannyasa. When we talk about Dharma, Dharma, the knowledge what Dharma is, can only be understood based on which varna we fall into, because Brahmana dharma is different from Kshatriya dharma is different from Vaishya dharma, and then so on and so forth to Shudra dharma also. Now, when we talk about Brahmana dharma, one cannot say that I will do Veda Dhyana, learn the Shastras, but on the side I will start one business. No, my dharma is to understand the Shastras, the dharma of the jnana, what the true knowledge is, and therefore I require active involvement in that particular dharma only. So there I cannot start one a venture and say that I'm going to give time to both of them. It requires me to focus purely on that. Therefore, that is the righteous way of doing it. A kshatriya, they cannot say, I will start studying Vedadhyana while being a kshatriya. Because the task of a kshatriya is to focus purely on kaya vriddhi and using that kaya, the kaya is body. So, using his body to bring about peace in society. So him protecting and him doing shastrabhyasa is important than him doing shastrabhyasa. So that is his dharma. Therefore, the dharma, the first 25 years of brahmacharya, which gives ample understanding and learn an opportunity to learn that particular dharma, is based on the varna. So first, when I need to understand dharma in the phase of brahmacharya, I need to first select which particular varna I have chosen to lead my life. So in the same way, the second one, when I've moved on to the second ashrama, that is grihastha ashrama, I have to build a livelihood, and I cannot ignore that. So when I'm building a livelihood, my purushartha that I'm going to solely focus on is something called as artha. Artha is financial betterment. Artha is all kind of manifested forms. So when I'm earning artha, there I have to make sure that as per my varna, whatever dharma I have learned, I engage with them. So, for example, I had learned the Vedas, therefore, I need to get involved in, let us say, Paurohitya. I had learned the Shastras, therefore, I use those Shastras to earn a living. I had earned about business, Vanik Vidya, and I engage. That is, I become a trader. I go around. I start making my money by trading, by trade. I have learned how to give a certain service, and I build a particular uh, livelihood through rendering that service. So this is the most important thing. So in this case, what happens is that when we go to the second part of it, the fulfillment of artha is through active engagement of dharma. So when I'm a Shudra, then whatever is the service that I have, that I have learned is my dharma. I have to equally get involved in it. I'm not saying that that is a restrictive category. There has to be an expansion of that. So when we are talking about any service, it shouldn't be that I must also be working under somebody for that rendering of that service. But the primary understanding is that that service motive must be the center stage of my grihastha. So I can start rendering that service at a whole scale level. I can start rendering that service as through innovation. So there is no restrictions over there. But service motive becomes the dharma for Shudras, and that should be expanded upon in Grihastha to earn Artha. Then when we move on to the third stage, that is when we move on to Vanaprastha, there has to be two concepts that we will see later on in the positive psychology part of the same verse is engagement and disengagement. So, because we have attached ourselves to whatever we selected as our Varna, and because our age has now progressed to an advanced level, that is 51 to 75 comes Vanaprastha, I have to focus more on sustaining myself to disengagement and detachment to whatever I have earned. So this in Purushartha also, our desires needs to get tested over here. There it was only, the previous ashrama was only to earn a livelihood. It was not with regard to desires. But we have fulfilled those desires. We may need to fulfill those desires. Vanaprastha ashrama is a little more tricky than we understand. It has two motives. One is we need to detach ourselves from certain desires. Desires are born out of certain indulgence. That means I have experienced what traveling in a car is like, and therefore I want a car. I've seen what a car is, therefore I want a car. Disengaging from that particular thought that I need a car is what requires Vanaprasthashramas. What is the point of Vanaprasthashrama? So, first objective of Vanaprasthashrama is to first notice what our kama or what our desires are, what our attachment is, then I need to detach from them. So this is possible when we understand Varna only, because a Brahmana, he would have built his life through Paurohitya only. So his attachment would probably be to all the Vaidika Kriyas. I have to do that Kriya, I have to do this Kriya, Nitya Karma, Naimittika Karma, Kamya Karma, Somayaga, all those things. A Kshatriya would have indulged in a more luxurious way of life, maybe meat eating, because his Kaya Vriddhi would have required that. So if you look at the Shudras also, they would have indulged in certain this thing while building a livelihood. They would also indulged in a certain kind of manifestation. They also have to detach themselves from that. In the same way, Vaishyas also. So the third part of the ashrama, Vanaprastha ashrama, has this primary objective of understanding what our desires is and making sure that we fulfill them and then disengage from them. That is the reason when Rama, when he's giving this, when he's starting out, he says Samapya Tatpurvam Upatta Sadhanaha. After completing them, we have to give up. First, we complete it. We are not running away from that duty. We are not running away from whatever is the expectation of that Varna Ashrama Dharma. We are fulfilling that. Kritva, Tat Kritva. After doing that, after completing those actions, after indulging in them, then I'm saying Samapya Tatpurvam Upatta Sadhanaha. Giving them up is that sadhana. That is the primary thing. Then when we go towards sannyasa, that is the fourth ashrama. Sannyasa ashrama is directed towards moksha, that is liberation. And that is only possible when we, regardless of which varna we are in, moksha is only possible when we understand that after disengagement from all these previous ashrama pravrittis, we are ready to earn the ultimate knowledge, that is Atma Bodha. So, Samashrayet Sadgurum Atma Labdhaye. So then I need to approach a guru to teach me what Atma Bodha is. Now, why have all these arrangements been given like this? Even the Vedas are split into two parts, Karma Kanda and Jnana Kanda. In Karma Kanda, you would see that we have the Samhitas, where we are learning, which is mostly, which is completely verses, which mostly is relevant to our first ashrama, that is Brahmacharya ashrama, where there is a lot of chanting that goes on. Even if you are a Kshatriya, different mantras are required to invoke different astras and etc. etc. So there was a need for learning them. This is the first thing. Second one, when we go to the second part of the Vedas, the Brahmanas, they are Kriya oriented. They tell you what Kriya, Vaidika Kriya, Kalpas are required, how to do it, which becomes a part of a Grihastha. And it is not restricted to any Varna. Every Varna has its own peculiar Vaidika Kriya. And then when we move on towards Aranyaka, see, Vanaprastha Ashrama, Aranyaka, they have the match. So going to Aranya, that is, where they're learning the certain Kriyas, that is disengagement. And then we move towards Upanishad. In Upanishad, we are learning, we are close to a guru and learning from him what Atma Bodha is. Upanishad. This whole particular this thing, the whole Kriya, this is mentioned in Mundaka Upanishad. We spoke about the Guru. Where I had quoted one line from Mundaka Upanishad, that was tadvijnanartham sa gurumevabhikachet samitpanihi shrotriyam brahmanishtam. This is actually the 12th shloka. Before that, there is another line. Parikshya lokan karmachitan brahmano nirveda mayan nastya kritah kritena. After actively examining the lokarudhi, that is whatever is the requirement of the loka, that is living in a particular society, whatever is required by us. after actively inquiring with that, then we will get to understand what satya and asatya is. Because if you do not indulge in samsara, then I tell you, no, it leads to addiction, it leads to some other problem, then people will not understand it. Only a person who has actively indulged in alcohol will understand what alcohol addiction is. Otherwise, he doesn't. No, it's not that a person has a problem. There are certain substances that lead to addiction. The nature itself is that. So, at this Varna Ashrama Dharma is a very important way which gives us a roadmap to approaching liberation of from samsara. Why is this important? Is because while it's very clear that one has to earn a livelihood, one doesn't understand that how to attain skills. So there, brahmacharya ashrama becomes very important. And then one doesn't understand when to give up the kriyas. One doesn't understand when to give up or cultivate disengagement and detachment from those desires. So this helps giving a roadmap. So this is the roadmap of uh, manifesting whatever is written in the Vedas and approaching Jnana Kanda after completing Karma Kanda. Not many people do this today, but that is the sole reason that we need to understand how they are related. That there needs to be active detachment. So this Mundaka Upanishad, it says Pariksha Lokan. Let an aspirant, after he has examined the worlds gained by karma, acquire the freedom from all desires, reflecting that nothing is eternal and can be gained by karma. Let him, in order to obtain the knowledge of the eternal, take the sacrificial fuel in his hands, that is Samit. Samit is what we put into the Havan. Samit Agni. So Samit Pani is somebody who is doing that. So that person who has actively indulged in the Vaidika Kriyas, that perceptor alone who is well versed in the Vedas, that person approaching um, a guru who helps him attain the Atma Bodha. So this is the most important thing. So in this, there is an understanding of, even when we talk about um, the four yogas that has been told in Srimad Bhagavad Gita, we understand that there is karma yoga, which is important for the grihastha, and there is jnana yoga that falls in the sannyasa ashrama. And then the bhakti yoga is what we need when we go to vanaprastha ashrama. And then the dhyana yoga, or as Swami Vivekananda popularized it as Raja Yoga, that we need to learn when we are in the brahmacharya ashrama, because yoga and all the kriyas, it requires early exposure to it. So these kind of things, they are all related, but we don't know how to approach them. So this is the ancient wisdom that we understand, and Rama re-emphasizes the importance of these when he says, first complete whatever your Varna Ashrama Dharma requires you to do, then you actively engage in detachment. So this is the Saṃskāra that has been given and showcased in Sri Rama Gita. So with this, we end the Saṃskāra session. स्वस्ति प्रजाभ्यः प्रतिपालयन्तां न्यायेन मार्गेण मही महिषा गोब्राह्मणेभ्यो शुभमस्तु नित्यं लोकाः समस्ताः सुखिनो भवन्तु कायेन वाचा मनसेन्द्रियैर्वा बुद्ध्यात्मना वा प्रकृते स्वभावात् करोमि यद्यत् सकलं परस्मै नारायणायेति समर्पयामि।